Starting with the war in Ukraine, a town in Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia region has been completely razed to the ground. The town of Orikhiv has faced intense fighting since the start of Kyiv's counteroffensive. Officials say Russian artillery hits the town at least 10 times daily. Orikhiv has been completely abandoned due to the intense fighting. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba has asked the US for more long-range missiles. The foreign minister said, and I quote, "Real support like weapons and ammunition needed for our counteroffensive is vanishing." Kuleba also said that the peace summit in Saudi Arabia last week was a quote-unquote major breakthrough. Poland is planning to send over 10,000 soldiers to its eastern border with Belarus. Warsaw is building up its borders due to the pressure of the Wagner mercenary group on the Belarusian side. Poland's defense minister said, and I quote, "We are reinforcing the border so that the aggressor doesn't dare to attack my country." Russia successfully launched its moonlander spacecraft today. This is Moscow's first lunar project after a gap of 47 years. The moonlander is named Luna 25. The spacecraft is expected to touch down on the south pole of the moon on the 21st of August. Russia's moon mission is competing with India's Chandrayaan-3 moonlander. The Indian spacecraft is also on a mission to the moon's south pole. It's expected to land on the 23rd of August. The Economic Community of West African Nations, or ECOWAS, met in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, yesterday. The bloc says that all options to restore stability in Niger were being considered. This includes a potential military intervention. After the meet, ECOWAS nations pledged stricter sanctions against Niger. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni slammed the World Bank's decision to suspend new funding to the East African nation. Museveni said, and I quote, "It's unfortunate that the World Bank is coercing us to abandon our culture." This week, the World Bank halted new loans for Uganda over the nation's strict anti-LGBTQ+ laws. The bank says Uganda's laws fundamentally contradict its values. A Kenyan court has denied bail to pastor and cult leader Paul Mackenzie in a fresh ruling yesterday. Judges ordered an additional 47 days of custody for the pastor. Mackenzie is in jail for being the leader of a suicide cult in Kenya. At least 400 people who were part of the cult have been found dead. Over 600 are still missing. Lebanon has deployed its army in a village following a shootout between religious groups. At least 2 people were killed in the clashes yesterday. During a search operation, the army seized a truck carrying weapons and ammunition. Lebanon has blamed the Iran-backed Hezbollah for stirring communal tensions. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Iran released 5 Americans from prison and put them under house arrest. The detained Americans were released last night. Blinken said that the Biden administration was working with Iran to bring the Americans home. He also called Tehran's move a positive step. Ecuador's government says the suspects involved in presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio's assassination are foreigners. Police officials said 1 suspect was killed during a shootout yesterday. Now, at least 6 others have been arrested. Ecuador's police say the suspects are Colombian nationals. Meanwhile, protests continued across Ecuador. Demonstrators demanded that the government provide more security against gang violence. They questioned the ability of the administration to safely conduct the upcoming presidential election. Ecuador's election commission has assured citizens that the elections will be held according to schedule despite the assassination of candidate Fernando Villavicencio. The Ecuador elections are scheduled for the 20th of August. Protests erupted in Argentina's capital Buenos Aires yesterday. Demonstrators clashed with police over the brutal murder of an 11-year-old girl. Earlier this week, the child was killed on her way to school. CCTV footage showed two people robbing an ATM and fatally shooting the girl as they drove by. Protesters shouted, "We want justice, we want safety." In climate news, the death toll from the wildfires in Hawaii's Maui has climbed to 53. The flames have razed buildings and structures to the ground in the American island state. Footage shows the devastating aftermath of the fires, which has left the resort town of Luhenu in ruins. Earlier this week, at least 3 major fires broke out in Maui. U.S. government forecasters expect a more dangerous storm season in the Atlantic this year. They have raised their Atlantic hurricane outlook due to high sea surface temperatures. The forecasters now expect 14 to 21 storms, with 6 to 11 potentially becoming hurricanes. Earlier, they had projected 12 to 17 storms, with hurricanes in the range of 5 to 8. The effects of climate change are causing food production issues in America's Midwest. Despite receiving significant rainfall in the past week, most parts of the Midwest are still abnormally dry. Over 80% of the crops are facing moderate to extremely dry conditions. This is in the states of Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. Heavy rain has flooded streets and disrupted traffic in the Canadian capital of Ottawa. This came as severe storms moved across the city. The Environment Department of Canada has issued a severe thunderstorm warning. This is to alarm residents about the possibility of flash floods. Typhoon Kanoon has left 1 person dead in South Korea. Rescuers were seen evacuating a trapped resident and pulling out submerged cars. Reports say residents in the capital city Seoul are worried about the long-term damage that the typhoon may cause. Meanwhile, Typhoon Kanoon also brought heavy rains and wind to North Korea. The storm weakened into a tropical depression as it crossed the country overnight. Reports say officials are implementing a disaster emergency response system and devising evacuation plans. In China, the country's National Observatory has renewed a blue alert for Typhoon Kanoon. It is expected to enter China on Saturday morning. The typhoon is expected to bring hail and heavy rains to the country's northern and northeastern provinces. This comes as China is still reeling from the destruction caused by Typhoon Doksuri. Meanwhile, China's Chongqing municipality continued to issue an orange alert for high temperatures. For the 5th day in a row, this is. The highest temperature in most parts of the city will be above 37 degrees Celsius till Friday night. Some areas may experience temperatures as high as 40 degrees Celsius. Moving to business and tech news, Singapore has slightly cut its annual economic outlook for this year. This is after it narrowly averted a recession in the second quarter. According to government data, Singapore's GDP grew by 0.1% from April to June. In the first quarter, the country reported a 0.4% decline in its GDP. A country enters a technical recession if it records 2 consecutive quarters of contraction. Australia's Supreme Court has blocked the local arm of PricewaterhouseCoopers from removing one of its partners. In July, the firm named 8 partners who had either left or were supposed to leave the company. This was following an internal investigation into a tax document leak scandal in Australia. However, one of the partners then sued PwC Australia, accusing it of not providing sufficient reasons for his removal. The Australian Supreme Court has now ruled in favour of the partner. According to a new report, Japan is planning to introduce tax breaks for domestically made electric vehicle batteries and semiconductors. The new tax breaks could come as soon as April 2024. The move is aimed at encouraging companies to bring production back to Japan from China. This follows similar industrial policies in the United States and the European Union. Germany's semiconductor shortages will take years to resolve. This is according to a senior manager at automaker Audi. He says that the chip shortage will persist despite plans by chip makers to build factories in Germany. This year, companies such as Intel and Taiwan's TSMC have announced plans to set up German plants. Amazon is reportedly shelving several of its private clothing brands. This comes as the e-commerce giant tries to cut costs and address antitrust scrutiny. It has decided to eliminate 27 of its 30 in-house label clothing brands. This leaves the company with just Amazon Essentials, Amazon Collection, and Amazon Aware. Regulators in the US state of California have approved the expansion of Robo Taxis. A Robo Taxi is a self-driving or driverless taxi. This move comes despite vigorous opposition from some residents and city agencies over safety concerns. It'll allow Alphabet's Waymo and General Motors' Cruise to operate round-the-clock services. They will compete against ride-hailing and taxi services dependent on human drivers. Ride-sharing platform Lyft will start displaying advertisements on its app. The move will help the company create a more stable source of revenue. It will also boost CEO David Risher's plan to turn Lyft around by maintaining competitive prices. Space tourism company Virgin Galactic flew 3 tourists to the edge of space yesterday. They were the company's first set of commercial tourists. The passengers included an 80-year-old John Goodwin. Goodwin became the second person with Parkinson's to go into space. The other 2 Virgin Galactic passengers were Keisha Shahaf and Anastasia Myers. They are the first mother-daughter duo to go to space. The US Treasury Department is set to propose a rule that will crack down on the country's real estate sector. It would effectively end anonymous luxury home purchases. The rule will require real estate professionals to report the identities of buyers who pay for properties in cash. The American agency's move is expected to close a loophole that allows tax evaders, terrorists, and other criminals to hide their illicit income. According to reports, a US cybersecurity advisory panel will investigate the risks of cloud computing. They will also probe Microsoft's role in a recent breach of government email systems by suspected Chinese hackers. The panel will focus on risks to cloud computing infrastructure, including identity and authentication management. Moving to sports, in cricket, Captain Rohit Sharma expressed concerns about India's batting order ahead of the World Cup. India are still looking for a batter for the crucial 4th position in the one-day international team. Sharma said, and I quote, "Number 4 has been an issue for India in ODIs since Yuvraj Singh left." He said a high number of injuries has hampered the team. The ICC Men's ODI World Cup starts from October 5th. In football, Spain beat the Netherlands 2-1 in the FIFA Women's World Cup quarter-final. The match went into extra time after the two sides were 1-1 after 90 minutes. Then Spain's Salma Paraluelo scored the winning goal at the 111th minute. This is the first time Spain has reached the semi-finals of the FIFA Women's World Cup. England forward Lauren James has been given a 2-match ban by FIFA. This was after she got a red card for stepping on the back of a Nigerian player during England's last match. This means James will miss the quarter-final against Colombia and the semis if England qualify. 21-year-old James is England's top scorer in the World Cup. German giants Bayern Munich have agreed to a deal with Tottenham Hotspur for Harry Kane. The deal is worth over $127 million. Harry Kane is Tottenham's all-time top scorer with 280 goals. The England captain will now travel to Munich for a medical. Brazilian defender Roger Ibanez has left Italian side AS Roma to join the Saudi Pro League. He will join the club Al Ahly on a 4-year deal. The financial details of the deal haven't been disclosed. 24-year-old Ibanez had scored 3 goals in 48 games for Roma last season. In tennis, world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz reached the quarterfinals of the Canadian Open. Alcaraz defeated Hubert Hurkacz of Poland in the men's singles category. He lost the first set to Hurkacz but rallied back 7-6, 7-6 in the next 2 rounds. Meanwhile, world number 2 Daniil Medvedev also reached the Canadian Open quarterfinals. He defeated Italy's Lorenzo Musetti 6-4, 6-4 in the men's singles category. Medvedev will next face Australian tennis player Alex de Minaur. World number 1 Iga Świątek qualified for the Canadian Open quarterfinal. Świątek defeated Karolina Muchova of the Czech Republic in the women's singles category. She won 2 out of 3 sets. Świątek will now face Danielle Collins in the next round on Saturday. World number 3 Elena Rybakina of Kazakhstan also reached the Canada Open quarterfinals. She defeated her American opponent 6-3, 6-3 in the women's singles category. Rybakina's next match is on Saturday against Daria Kasatkina. Australian tennis player Nick Kyrgios has withdrawn from the upcoming US Open. Kyrgios said this was because of a wrist injury. The 28-year-old sustained multiple injuries last year and hasn't recovered yet. Kyrgios had also pulled out of the previous 4 Grand Slams. In the world of entertainment, negotiations between striking actors and writers and major studios begin today. Disney, Warner Brothers and Netflix are some of the major studios that will join the negotiations. The strikers' unions say they will demand guarantees against bringing artificial intelligence into the writing industry. Meanwhile, the striking actors are demanding improved compensation. The negotiations come after the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strike marked 100 days yesterday. Meanwhile, the 75th Emmy Awards have been postponed to 2024. This is due to the ongoing writers and actors strike. Organizers for the Emmys say the awards will now be hosted on January 15th. That is, if the striking unions agree terms with the studios. Rapper Travis Scott's concert in the Italian capital Rome did not go as planned. The concert was held near Rome's iconic Colosseum. Over 60,000 people attended the musical show. At least 60 fans were injured during a stampede. The chaos happened after an altercation broke out between fans. Italian officials say the stampede caused a small tremor which damaged nearby ancient sites. Beyonce's Renaissance tour has become the highest-grossing concert tour among black artists of all time. Revenue from her ongoing tour has crossed almost $300 million. This is in earnings from 33 shows so far. Beyoncé has also sold over 11.5 million tickets, the highest for any black artist for a given tour. Queen Bey is currently performing in Europe. Canada and the US are the next stops on Beyoncé's tour. Korean boy band BTS member V released a new music video titled Love Me Again. The video hit 1 million views in just 7 minutes. Love Me Again has now become the fastest music video by a male to hit 1 million views this year. The song is a prequel to V's upcoming debut album, Layover, which will release in September. Singer Lodi has shared a cryptic message about a potential new album. The artist wrote on Instagram, and I quote, "I have so much to tell you, I will show it to you soon." Fans are speculating that the 26-year-old singer will announce her new album shortly. These speculations come after Lodi revealed glimpses of a new soundtrack earlier this year. Singer and actor Rihanna has dropped a new maternity wear collection. The maternity collection will be part of her luxury fashion brand Savage x Fenty. Riri also took to social media to open up about the challenges of being a parent. She's currently expecting her second child with rapper A$AP Rocky. Media celebrity Kim Kardashian is receiving backlash from her followers. She took to Instagram to promote an MRI body scan costing over $2,000. She reminded her followers to undergo routine health checkups, particularly to detect early stages of cancer, following which followers slammed her for promoting health checkups that most people cannot afford. They called Kardashian tone deaf. Actor Brody Jenner and his fiancée Tiara Blanco welcomed their first baby. The actor took to Instagram to announce that the couple had been blessed with a daughter. Brody Jenner is the son of famous media personality Caitlyn Jenner. He is well known for his performances in TV series like The Hills and The Princes of Malibu. Rock band Fleetwood Mac's co-founder Mick Fleetwood's restaurant burnt down in the wildfires in Hawaii. The American islands have been engulfed in massive flames for the last 2 days. The drummer announced that his eatery, called Fleetwood on Front Street, was completely charred. However, he assured his followers that all his staff, including his family, were safe.